Next up, we've got who do we have next? We've got Paul Cocksedge, who is co-founder and designer at Paul Cocksedge Studios. Their mantra is attention to detail, a willingness to question assumptions and to never limit themselves. One of his most famous pieces is the living staircase for Ampersand in London. Included plants, a mini library, even somewhere to make a nice cuppa, which sounds good. And Paul himself is winner of lots of awards and spoken on lots of things around the world. So please give a big hand to Paul.
Thank you very much for coming. So we're based in Hackney, so not far from here. It's a small studio, and it's, I suppose what we do, we follow ideas. We don't really have a plan, and I think that's the way we like it. And so because we follow, we end up doing many different types of things, and that variety is very inspiring. We are very happy to get people to phone us and ask us to do things, and if that doesn't happen, that's okay too, because we will just self-generate projects and try and make things happen. And I'm going to show you 4 projects that kind of just show you the variety and show you the kinds of stuff that we get up to. The first one is called Kiss. It happened in Milan, and for a long time in my 20s I was fascinated by electricity because it's hidden in our technology. So there was many experiments that I was doing. One of them was this one. And so what we show is that the human touch can be the connection to electricity and light. So this is in the corner of my garage, it's like some wires and stuff. So this was just a small experiment, for me very fascinating. We had this opportunity to think of a project for Milan. So we did this Photoshop image where we show a stage, a mistletoe, and a dome that's covered in thousands and thousands of LEDs. And it was part of a bigger scheme where artists would do kind of art pieces with light. And so the idea is really simple. People come on the stage, when they kiss, when their lips touch, because humans conduct electricity, because we contain mostly water, it would turn on light. So a Photoshop image, a client who I've never met yet, then a phone call, then I fly there and I try to convince them, and they went for it. They stayed very true to the idea. No branding really, just a very simple kind of stage, the mistletoe, and it opened. There was no kind of instruction book necessary. People just were queuing. They really wanted to go on this stage and kiss and be part of this, for me, which was like an electrical experiment. I was kind of so excited that this little mock-up I had in my studio was suddenly going public. And I think people were completely fascinated that the intimate act of a kiss can transform into something spectacular. How was it done? But actually, all of that technology kind of wasn't that important, really. In the end, it was about bringing people together, transforming the space, and it was just really wonderful to see. This is my video on my phone, just kind of going, isn't that just really amazing that this is happening? But during the project, I was kind of a bit nervous that it didn't have enough layers to it. It was just like, maybe it's just a bit too fun, maybe it's a bit, I needed to add something else. And so I had a meeting with a bank, and I said, look, we're going to have this counter, and we're going to count the kisses. And I said, look, if I can get people to kiss, would you be willing to match with euros? And they were like, is this guy a bit crazy, whatever? Is it going to work? Is it safe? I convinced them. They agreed with it, and we had 100,000 kisses, so we made 100,000 euros, which went to a children's charity. So it kind of had this other layer. So people were having fun, taking photos, kissing, fantastic. But behind the scenes, it wasn't really spoken about. We were raising money for good causes. So, as designers, artists, like repetition is something, it's the same thing as you've done before. which is make people see that it's slightly negative sometimes. Whereas with this project, I was really happy to repeat it. So it's come to London. We've taken it to Shanghai for 3 years, and we get people to kiss. We turn on things, turn on Christmas trees, build lights on buildings, and we've almost raised £1 million. And then we want it to carry on. So the idea is that it may light the Eiffel Tower, etc., etc. So kind of this is one way that we work. Other ways are my journey, my short walk from my house to my studio. And I kept on seeing these old speakers on the street, and they had these post-it notes which said, "Please take me home." And I was like, okay, I'll take you home. Instead of home, I took it to the studio, and I started to collect all these speakers. And I was looking at them thinking, why are people throwing away these speakers? And then it obviously made sense, because you have the kind of the Beats by Dre and the cool brands that they tell you that you need to buy this new kind of way of playing music. And so people would buy it because the adverts are great and it's really fantastic. But the downside to it and the sad side to it is that all of this technology that actually is really, really good and actually in a way designed much better than the new stuff because it's bigger and it's made out of wood, and the mechanics of a speaker was great 50 years ago. And so I thought something should be really done about this. And I had an idea, and I designed this product here. It's called the Vamp. And we launched it on Kickstarter. I'll show you the video. I might stop it short because it is really cheesy, but it was just something that we had to do. And here it is. I'd like to share an idea with you, and it's to do with sound. These older speakers, designed decades ago, they still have the potential to give us great sound. The only thing they lack is a way of communicating with our new technologies. That's where the Vamp comes in, and I'd like to show you how it works. Using Bluetooth, the Vamp receives the music and plays it through these type of speakers. Inside is a battery that powers the speaker, meaning all the wires and clutter we're used to seeing are gone. Although the Vamp is small, there is a lot happening inside. We have developed the circuit to perform really well with the variety of speakers you may attach with a long battery life. Here is the amplifier, the battery, the USB charge socket, the red and black speaker connector, the headphone socket, and the on and off button. For me, reusing perfectly good technology makes sense, and there is a beauty in the way these speakers look. They are part of our music history. If you have an old speaker in the attic or garage or spot one on the street, you can bring back the sound at a fraction of the price compared to other Bluetooth speakers on the market. Boom. Okay, so we did it. It was really exciting. We made a lot of money, over £100,000, which was such a surprise. There was a risk associated to it. And then a lot of hard work then. You know, it was trips to China, manufacturing, but we had so many opportunities to kind of retail this product. I mean, people were fascinated that something so small can power any speaker. And I found myself with my business partner in meetings with like really big distributors, and it was like so exciting. It's like, we can make some money, isn't this amazing? And then I kept on talking about recycling, and like, we got to communicate this. And then this look in their eyes, they glazed over, and I was like, excuse me, hello? This is what's so good about it. And they weren't interested. They were interested in boxes on shelves with no communication about recycling. And so I was kind of like, that's deflating. I've sold loads to Kickstarter people, but the people who can really shift the volume aren't interested in what I'm interested in. And then I got home, back to the studio with my business partner, and I was like, okay, we either just stop it or we try to kind of react to that. And I called our recycling centre, and 10,000 speakers a month get thrown away. I was like, this is crazy. So we went the other way. We weren't interested at all about distributing through any of the high street shops. We just kept it completely simple. We sell through our website, but we've added another layer. So now we have a van, we drive to recycling centres, we climb in the pile of rubbish, we pick out the speakers, we have a van that brings them back, we have people in the studio who kind of look after them, they wear gloves, they clean them, they test them, they solder and fix wires. I mean, these things have survived that big rubbish and the crane, and they've survived. It's amazing. And then if you buy a vamp and you haven't got a speaker, we just surprise you in the box with this saved speaker. And it doesn't cost anything. We just kind of do that. So it's crazy business sense, but it doesn't matter, because it really isn't about that. It's about just doing something that we enjoy. And that's the vamp. So that was a self-generated project. This was a phone call. So this is in Soho. This is the Ampersand building, and it's a new building, and there's different floors which the developer wanted to rent out to different companies. And there's this atrium which has tremendous natural light coming through. These are the materials that I saw from the rendering: concrete, glass, very modern, very kind of slick, and. But they wanted something within the center that kind of brought people together. And that was the brief, nothing else at all. And so thinking about the journey between these levels, usually people would take the lift, where people are transported in silence. But then the stairs became something we wanted to examine. So without going too much into kind of engineering, this is a traditional spiral staircase, which has a structure in the middle. We wanted to make that bigger. If you make a big spiral, you're definitely going to have something in the middle to hold it up. But we were working with Arup, the engineers, who are fantastically, amazingly creative and technical, and they worked away of us not having this center structure. So suddenly we had these spaces in the middle that we could use. And this gave birth to the living staircase. So it's in the atrium. It's clad in wood, so it's kind of very natural material, and it's got this ribbon of life, plants that go all the way around. And in the center, this is where we invite people to, instead of just walking up and leaving to the floor, they can go into the center of this spiral and meet and do these really simple things, but hopefully very enjoyable. So you can read, you can draw, you can look after the plants, and instead of kind of disappearing into the chaos of central London, you can go to the top. You can pick fresh mint, there's a hot water machine, and you can make yourself a free cup of mint tea. So it's about people, it's about trying to make something that looks quite nice, contrasting the very modern materials of the architecture. But really it's about, the most important thing is about the kind of conversations that will happen within these spaces, and hopefully making kind of connections with people that you would never ever meet if you took the lift or a traditional staircase. Mint tea. And this was quite a big deal for us, because it took a lot of convincing, it took a lot of engineering, and then the impact of an idea. You have an idea in your studio, and then suddenly you've got a team of people with metal and they're welding, and you're going, wow, there is this kind of, you have a responsibility to try and do something half decent, But very enjoyable, and people really backed it, and it's open. And so we'll be going back there and kind of doing a small film to kind of see how people are finding this staircase. And then finally, this is kind of, there's a bit of a problem that we had to solve with this proposal for a bridge. This is Battersea, and there was a competition to think of a bridge that went over the Thames But it's a really interesting bridge because it's not for cars, it's just for people walking and people cycling. So this is quite a, it's not a new thing to happen, but definitely very exciting because you don't have to think about the horrible car driving across a bridge. So we can look at other bridges that you can walk across, the most beautiful bridge. And there's a rhythm of walking here. This is a calm rhythm. Sometimes that gets very, very busy. And then you think about the rhythm of cycling, because this is a cycling bridge. The Millennium Bridge is not for cycling. So then you think about cycling. So you have the calmness, then you have the intense side of cycling. And I think when we were thinking about this bridge that has to accommodate for all of these different types of rhythms, what we didn't want to happen is that it becomes this mess of some people kind of sightseeing, some people cycling, they're in a rush, and then coming towards other cyclists, and then this crash, which would be a disaster because crossing a bridge should be a time of disconnection from the city. It should be something wonderful because you're kind of over water. And so we tried to design the solution, but actually the solution was given to us by water itself, because water never goes in straight lines, and it never goes in one kind of, it always splits up. So the idea is to have these 3 lines that go across the Thames. It's not really about what these lines really look like, because any lines would look quite nice, I think, anyway. And what we've done is that we've kind of created these 3 lines that allow people to walk on the far left one. So people can walk, some people can run, some people can kind of pause and take photographs. And then we've kind of created a separation between the cyclist going one way and the cyclist coming the other way, which I feel is really, really important, because if you're cycling towards another cyclist, then that's quite scary, even if you're on the street or going to a park. It's whoa. Whereas suddenly we can kind of calm cyclists down a bit by having these curves. So suddenly you're kind of curving around and enjoying the view. And by doing these 3 lines, you create something quite sculptural underneath. And then we collaborated with Arup again. Now actually every bridge going over the Thames has structure going into the water. This one definitely needs it because of the cars. This one has 2, so it's a bit lightweight, but there was an ambition to say, well, because it's not for cars, and it's just for people on bikes and people walking, because we've created these 3 lines, suddenly we've got a really, really light structure. So we've removed the columns from the water to the banks, and that's really quite interesting, because now you go onto the bridge and you are floating over that water, and there's nothing going into the Thames, which is more affordable, easier to install, but hopefully just will create a lightweight structure. There we go. Thanks.